My name is Alara Vance, and for most of my life, I've felt like a ghost in my own family. At 28 years old, with a PhD in astrophysics, I can map the echoes of dying stars, but I could never make my own family hear my voice. Last week, I was awarded the Starlight Medal, the highest honor in my field. It was the single most important night of my professional life. My parents and my sister chose to go to a party instead. What they didn't know, as they sipped herbal tea and posed for photos, was that their casual act of dismissal was about to trigger a supernova. The next morning's headline wouldn't just announce my victory, it would expose their betrayal to the entire world and change our lives forever. If you've ever felt invisible in a room full of people who are supposed to see you best, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to fight to take up space in your own life, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is for every quiet soul who is about to find their roar. In the solar system of my family, there have always been two suns. One was my younger sister, Chloe, a blazing, dazzling star who pulled everyone and everything into her orbit. And then there was me. If I was a celestial body at all, I was a black hole, my presence felt only by what I consumed. Responsibility, expectations, and the quiet, crushing weight of being second best. Chloe was born with a megawatt smile and a halo of blonde hair. She was the cheer captain, the prom queen, and now, at 25, a content creator whose life is a carefully curated feed of kale smoothies and sunset yoga poses. I, on the other hand, was born with an insatiable curiosity and a pair of thick glasses. My brown hair was always in a functional bun, meant to stay out of the eyepiece of a telescope. While Chloe was learning the perfect selfie angle, I was learning to code in Python to analyze data from the Kepler Space Telescope, searching for worlds beyond our own. The injustice wasn't a single explosive event. It was the very air we breathed in our home. It was a constant, low-grade radiation of favoritism that I had learned to absorb. A particularly searing memory comes from when I was 10. I had spent 3 months, every single evening after school, meticulously building a project for the district science fair. It was a detailed working model of the solar system, with planets that actually orbited a glowing sun at their correct relative speeds. I had built it from scratch, soldering wires and programming a tiny motor. I won first place. The prize was a small, gleaming trophy and a brand new telescope that felt like the key to the universe. I was vibrating with joy. I couldn't wait to show my parents. That same afternoon, Chloe found out she had landed a non-speaking role as third tree from the left in the school play. That evening, our house was abuzz. The air crackled not with talk of planetary orbits or scientific achievement, but with the critical debate over what kind of moss my mother would use for Chloe's tree costume. My father spent 2 hours on the phone with every relative in his contact list, proudly announcing Chloe's stage debut. My trophy sat on the kitchen counter, its gold plating reflecting the chaos, unseen. My telescope remained in its box, a coffin for my excitement. When I finally managed to pull my father away from a call with my aunt, my voice small, asking if he wanted to see my project, he patted me on the head distractedly. "That's wonderful, Alara. Really smart stuff. Now, a quick question. Do you think Chloe's branches should be oak or maple? It's a very autumnal play." My first place victory, my key to the universe, became a footnote on the day Chloe became a tree. This dynamic didn't just continue, it solidified into the bedrock of our family. I became the family's quiet, reliable ATM, and Chloe became its high-risk, high-reward stock option that never quite paid off. Knowing my parents struggled financially, I worked with a relentless, single-minded focus to get full-ride scholarships for my undergraduate and graduate programs. I took on every extra job I could, teaching assistant, research fellow, late-night lab monitor, and sent a significant portion of my meager earnings home every month. I framed it as paying them back for raising me, a narrative that made it easier for them to accept. But I knew the truth. That money was a silent subsidy for the Chloe Show. It paid for her trendy downtown apartment when she decided, at 22, that she needed to find herself away from the stifling suburbs. It funded her inspirational trips to Bali, which resulted in a week of Instagram photos of her in a bikini and no discernible personal growth. It bought the endless stream of new tech she absolutely needed for her brand. Last year's incident with the research grant was the most blatant and painful example. I had been awarded $10,000 for a preliminary paper I'd published, a huge validation from the scientific community. It was a lifeline. My university-issued laptop was on its last legs, crashing at least twice a day, and a critical astrophysics conference was happening in Switzerland. This was my chance to network with the giants in my field, to present my early findings. It could set the course for my entire career. But then Chloe announced her new calling was photography. "She needs a professional camera and a few lenses, Alara," my father explained over the phone, his voice laced with an urgent gravity he never used for me. "This could be her big break. She has a real eye for it. You know that grant money of yours? It could make all the difference." I tried to explain. I laid out the importance of the conference, the necessity of a functioning computer for my research. My logical, reasoned arguments were met with a patient, weary sigh, as if I were a selfish child. "But Alara," my mother chimed in on the extension, her voice syrupy with disappointment, "the conference will be recorded, won't it? And your laptop still works, for now. Chloe's opportunity is a spark. If we don't fan it now, it could go out. It's about momentum." My momentum, apparently, didn't matter. I ended up wiring them $8,000. I rationalized it as keeping the peace, as the cost of being part of a family. Chloe used the state-of-the-art camera for about 2 months, filling her social media with over-filtered photos of lattes and her own feet. Then she decided the photography world was too toxic and competitive, sold the equipment for half its value, and bought a vintage designer handbag. I watched the conference in Switzerland on a glitchy, pixelated live stream from my dying laptop, the fan whirring like a jet engine, and felt a cold, hard knot of resentment form in my stomach. This was our pattern. My achievements were a communal resource. Chloe's passions were an urgent investment. I was the safety net. She was the firework display. I had accepted it because a part of me, a part I was deeply ashamed of, believed it was my role. I was the stable one, the responsible one. I didn't need the spotlight. I just needed their quiet support, or so I thought. But I was about to find out that their support wasn't silent. It was entirely absent. And I was about to discover that in the most public and painful way imaginable. The catalyst arrived in a thick, cream-colored envelope, looking regal and out of place amongst the bills and junk mail. The wax seal on the back was embossed with a stylized constellation. My hands shook a little as I opened it. Inside, an invitation was engraved with shimmering gold letters. "The National Astrophysics Institute cordially invites you to the 50th Annual Starlight Medal Ceremony in honor of Dr. Alara Vance." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The Starlight Medal wasn't just an award. It was the Nobel Prize of our world. It was given to one scientist under 40, whose work had fundamentally shifted our understanding of the universe. My work on residual gravitational waves from neutron star mergers, a theory I had been developing for 4 years, had been confirmed by recent observations. It had opened a whole new window into the first moments of the universe. It was my life's work. Validated. I ran into the living room, waving the invitation like a victory flag. My parents were on the couch, absorbed in a reality television show. Chloe was sprawled on the floor, phone held inches from her face. "Look," I said, my voice an octave higher than usual with excitement. "It came! The official invitation!" My mother put on her reading glasses, taking the heavy cardstock from my hand. "Oh, the Starlight Medal. That's nice, dear." She said it with the same flat enthusiasm one might use to comment on a new brand of dish soap. "It's more than nice, Mom," I said, my smile faltering. "This is everything. Stephen Hawking won an honorary version of this. Carl Sagan gave the keynote in '82. This is a massive honor." "That's great, Alara," my father said, his eyes still glued to the television. "Do they serve a good dinner?" He chuckled, as if he'd made a clever joke. "Your mother and I went to a work awards dinner for my company once. The chicken was rubber. Hope yours is better." The comparison, the sheer inability to comprehend the scale of this, was a small, cold shock. Chloe finally looked up from her phone, a bored expression on her face. "So, you have to wear a dress? Weird. I can't even picture you in anything but jeans and a university sweatshirt." My excitement, once a blazing fire, was now sputtering embers. "The ceremony is on Saturday the 18th, at the Grand Astoria Hotel. Do you want to come, Chloe? You could wear one of your dresses." Chloe scoffed, tossing her hair. "Saturday the 18th? No can do. That's my big night." My mother immediately sat up, muting the television, her attention now fully captured. "Oh, that's right. Chloe, did you tell Alara your news?" "Tell me what?" I asked, a sense of dread beginning to crawl up my spine like a cold vine. "I'm having a launch party," Chloe announced, tossing her phone aside and getting to her feet, striking a pose. "I've partnered with Aura Wellness, a new organic herbal tea brand. They love my content and want me to be the face of their Tranquil Glow line. We're hosting an exclusive launch party at the Zenith Rooftop Lounge on the 18th. I stared at her. "The 18th? The same night as my award ceremony?" "I know. Crazy coincidence, right?" Chloe said, her voice completely devoid of apology. "But they picked the date. It's all about timing in this business. There are going to be a ton of other influencers there, photographers, maybe even press. It's a huge opportunity for me." "It certainly is," my mother said, her eyes shining as she took Chloe's hand. "We have to make sure you have the perfect outfit. Your father and I will help you with the cost of that. This is an investment in your future." I stood there, the heavy, elegant invitation sagging in my hand. "But what about my ceremony?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My father finally turned to look at me, a frown of mild irritation on his face. "Alara, we can't be in two places at once. Chloe's party is an all-night affair, a major networking event. Your award thing is just a dinner and a speech, right? It's a work function. We can't miss the launch of your sister's career. You're an adult. You understand." I didn't understand. I didn't understand at all. 10 years of grueling work, sleepless nights in the lab, moments of soul-crushing doubt and rare flashes of brilliance, it had all led to this moment, a recognition most scientists only dream of. And my family was trading it for an herbal tea party. "Right," I said, the word feeling like ash in my mouth. "I understand." But as I walked back to my room, closing the door and leaning against it, I felt a fault line forming inside of me. I was used to coming in second, but this was worse. This was being erased from the race entirely. I thought I could endure it, but I had no idea that their next actions would shatter every remaining limit. For the next 2 weeks, our house transformed into campaign headquarters for Chloe's big night. My award ceremony ceased to be mentioned. It became a non-event, a ghost in our conversations, completely eclipsed by the glamorous shadow of the rooftop party. The escalation was swift and merciless, each day bringing a fresh, new slight that chipped away at my resolve. The first incident happened at a family dinner that weekend. The entire conversation orbited Chloe, her guest list, her outfit, the aesthetic of the event. My mother was sketching ideas for a flower wall to serve as a photo backdrop on a napkin. My father was researching the best non-alcoholic cocktails that could incorporate tranquil glow tea, treating it like a high-stakes business proposal. "We need to make sure the lighting is perfect for the Instagram stories," Chloe said, swiping through photos of other influencers on her phone. "Everything has to look authentic but aspirational." Trying to find a foothold in the conversation, I said, "The Grand Astoria has a beautiful ballroom, too. They said the ceiling is designed to look like a starry night sky." 4 blank stares met my comment, as if I had just started speaking in Klingon. "Oh, right, your award thing," my mother said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "That's nice. Anyway, Chloe, what do you think about dried lavender as table scatter? Is that on brand for you?" That feeling of being brushed aside like an irrelevant nuisance started to become a familiar ache. I was background noise in Chloe's symphony, a low hum they had learned to tune out. The next slight was more personal. I had finally bought the gown for the ceremony, a beautiful midnight blue dress that had cost me a significant chunk of my savings. I was feeling a rare moment of excitement and wanted to share it. I found my mother in the kitchen and showed her a picture of it on my phone. "What do you think?" I asked, hopefully. She glanced at it for a second. "Very elegant, Alara." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Chloe, FaceTiming her from a boutique. "Mom! Crisis!" Chloe's panicked face filled the screen. "The zipper on the backup dress is stuck. What if my main dress gets a stain? I need a flawless second option." For the next 20 minutes, my mother was completely engrossed in Zippergate. She coached Chloe through talking to the sales associate, suggested different tailors, and offered to drive across town immediately with a special kind of lubricant for zippers. I stood there, holding my phone with the picture of my dress still on the screen, feeling utterly foolish. A broken zipper on a backup dress was a 4-alarm fire. The most significant dress of my entire life earned a passing very elegant. Then came the inevitable request for money. I was in my room, trying to work on my acceptance speech, when my mother knocked and came in, her expression a careful mixture of concern and apology. "Alara, honey," she began, perching on the edge of my bed. "Your father and I are a little tight this month, and there are a few unexpected expenses for Chloe's party." I knew what was coming. "What expenses?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Well, the brand wants her to hire a professional DJ now, not just use a Spotify playlist. And the event planner suggested a custom smoothie bar. It's a fantastic investment in her brand, but it's a bit beyond our budget." She paused, looking at me with wide, hopeful eyes. "I was just wondering, with that award of yours, I know you said there wasn't a prize, but is there any kind of per diem or travel stipend? Anything at all?" I went rigid. "Mom, it's not a business trip. It's an honor. And even if there were, are you asking me to pay for Chloe's party, the one you're all attending, instead of my award ceremony?" She looked genuinely hurt by my tone. "Don't be like that, Alara. This isn't, instead of, we're supporting both of you. It's just that Chloe's support needs to be financial right now. Your success is already stable. You're self-sufficient. You don't need our cheers as much as she does." Her logic was so twisted and self-serving it left me nearly speechless. Because I was quietly, competently successful, I deserved less recognition and less support. My independence had become their excuse for their neglect. I told her I didn't have any extra money. A blatant lie, but I no longer cared. She left, clearly unhappy, leaving me to stew in a toxic mix of guilt and fury. The final unmasking came from Chloe herself. I found her in the kitchen a few nights before the events, modeling a champagne pink silk dress in the reflective glass of the microwave. She looked stunning, and a small, stupid part of me felt a flicker of pride. "That's a beautiful dress," I said. She turned, a smug smile on her face. "Thanks. It's for my big night." Then she looked me up and down. I was in an old sweatshirt and yoga pants, my at-home work uniform. "What are you wearing to your science thing? A lab coat with sequins?" "It's called the Starlight Medal," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "And it's black tie. I have a gown." She let out a laugh. "Relax, Alara. I'm just teasing. You know, sometimes I feel sorry for you." "Sorry for me?" I asked, utterly bewildered. "Yeah," she said, turning back to her reflection. "Your life just seems so serious. All those numbers and theories. There's no glamour in it. I can't imagine working that hard just to impress a bunch of old professors. At least what I do is fun. It's about connecting with people, creating a vibe." The condescension in her words hit me like a physical blow. My life's work, my passion for uncovering the secrets of the cosmos, had just been dismissed by my sister as a dull, pointless hobby designed to impress old men. "My work isn't about impressing anyone, Chloe," I said, my voice ice cold. "It's about expanding human knowledge." "See? Even the way you talk is so serious," she said with a flick of her hand. "Anyway, don't forget to post a picture of me on Saturday night. Every bit of promotion helps." I turned and walked out of the room before I said something I would truly regret. The wake-up call, the outside validation I so desperately needed, came the next day in the form of a video call from my PhD advisor, Dr. Aris Ramirez. He was in Geneva, but was flying in for the ceremony. "Alara," he said, his beaming face filling my laptop screen. "I just saw the attendee list. The entire board of the Institute will be there. Even Alistair Finch is coming to present your award. Do you have any idea what this means?" I tried to summon a smile. "Alistair Finch was a living legend." "I know. It's incredible. Your family must be bursting with pride," he continued. "Are they getting a big table? We should all sit together." And just like that, I broke. I told him everything. About Chloe's party, my parents' indifference, the dismissive comments, the request for money. I was expecting sympathy, but instead, I got vicarious outrage. "What?" he boomed, his usual calm demeanor gone. "They are skipping Alistair Finch presenting their daughter with the Starlight Medal for an herbal tea party? Alara, this is not a minor slight. This is profoundly, fundamentally disrespectful. Your work is not a hobby. It is important. You are important." His voice softened. "I've seen hundreds of students, Alara. Minds like yours come along once in a generation. If they cannot see that, it is a catastrophic failure of their perception, not a reflection of your worth." Hearing those words from someone I respected so deeply validated everything I was feeling. I wasn't being overly sensitive. My reaction wasn't unreasonable. This situation was truly unhealthy. "I know," I whispered, a tear tracing a path down my cheek. "Do not let them diminish this moment, Alara," he said, his voice firm again. "This is your night. You have earned it. You walk onto that stage, with or without them, and you shine. You shine so brightly they feel the heat from wherever they are." When we ended the call, something had shifted in me. I had been walking a tightrope, trying to keep the peace, but the tightrope was about to snap, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the fall. The evening of Saturday, the 18th, arrived with a strange, frantic energy in the house. The air was thick with excitement, but none of it was for me. It was a whirlwind of hairspray, the drone of hairdryers, and the rustle of silk as Chloe and my mother put the finishing touches on their party preparations. My father had spent the afternoon pressing his shirt and polishing his shoes with a solemnity usually reserved for a state funeral. I stood in my room, a pocket of silence amidst the chaos, looking at the midnight blue evening gown I'd bought. It was the color of the sky at twilight, with tiny silver beads that glittered like distant stars. It felt like a piece of the night sky itself. I had purchased it months ago, imagining this moment, picturing my mother helping me with the clasp, my father telling me how proud he was. Now, it felt like a costume for a play in which I was the only actor. At 6 o'clock, I slipped into the dress. I did my makeup carefully, a routine I rarely engaged in, but tonight I wanted to feel armored. I styled my hair into an elegant chignon at the nape of my neck. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a stranger I wanted to get to know. A woman who looked poised and confident, but whose eyes held a deep, quiet resolve. I walked out of my room just as they were getting ready to leave. Chloe was a vision in champagne silk. She was spinning for my father, who was taking a video of her for his own social media. "Perfect, sweetie, perfect," he exclaimed. My mother was adjusting his tie, her face a mask of maternal pride. They stopped when they saw me. "Oh," my mother said, blinking, her hands freezing on my father's tie. "You look lovely, Alara." There was a note of genuine surprise in her voice, as if she couldn't quite believe her bookish daughter could look like this. "The color is very flattering." "Thank you," I said. "You all look very nice as well." "Well, don't wait up for us," my father said, pocketing his phone and checking his watch. "Chloe's party starts at 7. We have to get there early to get a good spot by the flower wall. The traffic will be a nightmare. You know how to get to your hotel, right?" "Yes, I know how," I said, a strange numbness spreading through me. The casualness of it was what hurt the most. It was like I was heading off to a dentist appointment. Chloe swept past me, her expensive perfume enveloping me in a cloud. It smelled sweet and cloying. "Good luck with your speech," she said over her shoulder, her tone a perfect blend of condescension and pity. "Try not to bore everyone to sleep. Maybe mention aliens or something." And then they were gone. I heard their laughter as they walked down the path, the slam of the car doors, and the engine fading into the night. The house fell silent. I was left standing alone in the living room, in my glittering gown, completely and utterly alone. That was the moment, the last straw. It wasn't a fiery confrontation, but a cold, hollow emptiness. The ease with which they left, the utter lack of regret or conflict in their eyes. They didn't just choose Chloe's party over my event. They did it without a second's thought, as if the decision was the easiest, most obvious choice in the world. It wasn't a choice to them at all. It was the default setting. A tiny, stubborn flicker of hope inside me. The part that had survived the science fairs, the graduation, the grant money, that part was finally extinguished. It died quietly, without a fight. I went to the hotel alone, in a taxi I'd called for myself. As we drove through the city, the lights blurred past the window. I saw other families out for the evening, laughing, walking together. A sharp pang of grief hit me, not for what I had, but for what I never would. I arrived at the Grand Astoria, a majestic building with a uniformed doorman who opened my door with a respectful nod. I walked into the marble lobby, feeling small and out of place. As I took the elevator up to the ballroom, my phone buzzed. It was a group text from my mother. I opened it, a fool's hope flickering for a second. It was a photo. Chloe, posing in front of the flower wall, blowing a kiss to the camera. My father was beside her, arm draped proudly around her shoulder. Below it, the caption, "Doesn't she look amazing? The party is incredible. The vibe is everything. Wish you were here. Wish you were here." The staggering, profound lack of awareness, the cosmic selfishness of that statement, broke through my numbness and hit me like a physical force. They weren't just at another event. They were in another reality, a universe where I barely existed. And in their universe, my absence at Chloe's party was a bigger deal than their absence at mine. And in the silence of the elevator, something inside me didn't just break. It was reforged into something new, something solid, something unbreakable. I wasn't going to walk onto that stage tonight as their daughter, seeking their approval. I was going to walk up there as myself. And for the first time, that was enough. The elevator doors opened onto a magnificent pre-function hall, a galaxy of glittering chandeliers and sparkling gowns. The air buzzed with conversation and the clinking of champagne glasses. For a moment, I felt the familiar pull of my own gravity, wanting to shrink, to become invisible. But then I saw Dr. Ramirez, his kind face lighting up as he waved to me from across the room, and the feeling dissolved. "Alara, you look absolutely phenomenal," he said, giving me a warm, fatherly hug that grounded me. "Come, let me introduce you to a few people." The hour before dinner passed in a surreal blur of introductions and congratulations. I shook hands with people whose names I had only ever seen on the spines of textbooks and in the footnotes of scientific journals. They didn't ask about my family or my personal life. They asked about my data. They wanted to know about my methodology for filtering signal noise. They debated the implications of my findings with a passionate, infectious enthusiasm. For the first time that night, I felt seen. Not as Chloe's sister or the responsible daughter, but as Dr. Alara Vance, a scientist among her peers. I felt like I was home. When it was time for the ceremony to begin, we took our seats at a table near the front. The dinner was exquisite, a delicate sea bass with a lemon caper sauce, but I barely tasted it. My heart was thrumming with a nervous energy that was part terror, part exhilaration. Finally, the lights dimmed, and the host took the stage. After a few introductory speeches, it was time for the main event. "And now," the host said, her voice echoing through the grand ballroom, "to present this year's Starlight Medal, we are deeply honored to welcome a titan of our field, a man whose work shaped the very lexicon of modern cosmology, the Nobel laureate, Dr. Alistair Finch." The room erupted in a sustained, reverent applause as a tall, silver-haired man with kind, intelligent eyes walked onto the stage. He looked exactly as he did in my textbooks, only more real, more human. He approached the podium, and the room fell silent with anticipation. "Thank you," he began, his voice a low, resonant baritone that commanded attention. 50 years ago, this medal was established to recognize the young minds who dared to look at the vastness of the universe and ask new questions. Tonight, we honor such a mind. He spoke about my work, not in the dry academic terms I was used to, but with a poetic clarity that made it accessible and beautiful. He described the faint, ancient whispers of gravitational waves, not as data points, but as the ghostly echoes of cosmic collisions. The entire room was captivated. "Dr. Vance's work is not merely theoretical," he said, his gaze sweeping across the audience. "It is a new map, a new way of listening to the echoes of creation." He paused, a dramatic flair I hadn't expected. "But this award is more than a recognition. It is an investment. It is a statement of faith in the future of discovery. This year's Starlight Medal comes with the inaugural Finch Starlight Research Grant in the amount of $5 million. A collective, audible gasp swept through the ballroom. $5 million. My mind went blank. The room seemed to tilt on its axis. I had known there was a grant, but the rumored figures had been a fraction of that, maybe $250,000 at most. I felt my eyes well up, the glittering lights of the chandeliers blurring into abstract shapes. This wasn't just life-changing, it was legacy-changing. This was the foundation of an entire career, a whole new laboratory. "And now, Doctor," Finch said, a warm smile spreading across his face. It gives me immense pleasure to ask Dr. Alara Vance to join me on stage. I walked in a dream, the applause a physical force pushing me forward. I shook his hand, feeling the surprising strength in his grip. I felt the heavy weight of the gold medal as he placed it around my neck. "Congratulations, Dr. Vance," he whispered, for my ears only. "You deserve every bit of this. We'll speak later." I gave my speech. My voice trembled at first. But as I looked out at the faces of my colleagues, my mentors, and my peers, it grew stronger. I spoke of the beauty of the unknown, the joy of discovery, and the profound importance of never, ever ceasing to ask what if. I thanked the Institute, the committee, and Dr. Ramirez. I did not mention my family. After the ceremony, as I was surrounded by a crush of well-wishers, an aide gently touched my arm and guided me to a private room. Dr. Finch was waiting there, standing by a window overlooking the city skyline. "Please, sit, Alara," he said, his tone now familiar and kind. "I apologize for the secrecy regarding the size of the grant. I wanted it to be a surprise." "Dr. Finch, I don't know what to say," I stammered, sinking into a plush armchair. $5 million? It will change everything." "I know," he said. "That's the point. Alara, there's something you don't know about me, or rather, about the scholarship that got you through your undergraduate years." I frowned. "The Lily Finch Memorial Scholarship? It was a lifesaver. I always assumed it was named for your mother or your wife." A shadow of an old, deep sadness crossed his eyes. "It was named for my daughter, Lily. She was a scientist, too, a brilliant marine biologist, but she was quiet, reserved, like you. She was always overshadowed by her brother, who was very charismatic and outgoing. Her mother and we didn't see her brilliance as clearly as we should have. We were distracted by our son's louder, more immediate needs. Lily passed away in a diving accident at 26, and my greatest regret, the one that haunts me, is that I didn't give her the recognition and support she deserved while she was alive." He turned to face me, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I started that scholarship fund to find young people like Lily. Quiet, brilliant minds who might otherwise be overlooked. I've followed your career ever since you received it, Alara. I've read every paper. Your work is extraordinary. When the committee selected you for the Starlight Medal, I knew it was my chance to do right by her, to invest in a brilliant mind without reservation." I was utterly speechless, overwhelmed by this revelation. My secret weapon wasn't just the money. It was this man, an ally I never knew I had, who understood my story on a level my own family was incapable of. "Your family isn't here tonight, are they?" he asked gently. I shook my head, unable to trust my voice. He nodded, a look of sad understanding on his face. "Sometimes, the people who are supposed to be our telescopes, helping us see our potential, act like black holes, sucking away the light. Alara, you don't owe them your silence anymore. This money, this award, it gives you freedom. The freedom to set your own terms, the freedom to build your own lab on your own terms, and to shine without apology." As I left that room, I felt a cold, sharp clarity. A plan began to form in my mind. It wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. My family had made their choice based on an incomplete set of facts. They thought they were skipping a minor dinner. They had no idea they had skipped the main event of my life. And the next morning's headline was about to make that painfully, publicly clear. The next morning, I woke up in the plush bed of the hotel suite the Institute had provided, feeling a strange and powerful calm. I hadn't checked my phone. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what was happening. A storm was brewing, and for once, I was the one holding the lightning. I called room service, ordered a lavish breakfast of eggs, Benedict, and fresh coffee, and requested a copy of the Boston Chronicle. When it arrived, I unfolded it with deliberate slowness. And there it was, splashed across the top of the front page, a large color photo of me, beaming, as Dr. Alistair Finch placed the Starlight Medal around my neck. The headline was massive and unmistakable: Local Astrophysics Genius. Dr. Alara Vance wins Starlight Medal and $5 million research grant. The article was a masterpiece of journalism. It went into glowing detail about my work, the prestige of the award, and the game-changing scale of the funding. The reporter had interviewed Dr. Finch, who sang my praises in a way that made me blush. And then there was the paragraph near the end, the one that was as carefully constructed as a surgical strike. When asked how Dr. Vance's family was reacting to this monumental achievement, a representative for the institute noted they were unable to attend the ceremony due to a prior commitment. A source close to the situation stated they were occupied with a brand launch event for the younger daughter, Chloe Vance, a social media influencer whose party was held the same evening. They'd done it. The journalist had found the story. The contrast was laid out in stark, brutal clarity for the entire city to see. Genius versus influencer. A $5 million grant versus an herbal tea party. I ate my breakfast slowly, savoring every bite. Around 9:30 a.m., my phone, which had been on silent, began to vibrate on the nightstand. It didn't stop. First, it was my mother. I watched her picture flash on the screen and let it go to voicemail. Then my father. Then Chloe. Then my mother again. In the span of 1 hour, there were 17 missed calls and 32 text messages, each more frantic than the last. Elara, call me immediately. This is a family emergency. $5 million? Why on earth didn't you tell us? The phone hasn't stopped ringing. My boss saw the paper. Our neighbors. What is going on, Elara? What did you do, Elara? You planted this story. You're trying to humiliate me on purpose. I checked out of the hotel and took a taxi to my small apartment. I knew they would be there. And sure enough, my father's car was parked haphazardly at the curb. All three of them standing on the sidewalk, looking lost, furious, and utterly pathetic. I paid the cab and stepped out, facing them as if they were a firing squad. Elara! My mother surged forward, her voice shrill with panic. Thank God! You have to explain this. The paper. It's saying horrible, untrue things. What horrible things is it saying, Mom? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. As far as I can tell, it's reporting the facts. I won an award. There's a large grant. And you weren't there. But why didn't you tell us about the money? My father demanded, stepping up beside her, his face red. If we had known how important it was, how much was at stake. Oh, so there it is, I said, a cold, humorless smile touching my lips. The importance of my achievement is measured in dollars. 10 years of work wasn't important enough. Being recognized by the greatest minds in my field wasn't important enough. The personal significance of the biggest night of my career wasn't important enough. But $5 million now, it's important. Don't you dare twist my words, he growled. You've made us look like thoughtless, unsupportive fools. I didn't make you look like anything, I countered, my voice as sharp and clear as breaking glass. I just lived my life. You made yourselves look like fools with your own actions. You chose a party for a tea brand over your daughter. The paper just reported it. Chloe stormed forward, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon, her face blotchy with rage. You've ruined my launch! My comments are a disaster area. People are calling me the spoiled sister and Princess Herbal Tea. The Aura Wellness brand is putting our contract under review. You did this on purpose to sabotage me. I looked her dead in the eye, and for the first time I felt no pity, only a vast, empty distance. No, Chloe. I did nothing. I simply existed. And my existence, my success, turned out to be an inconvenience to your narrative. I have spent my entire life making myself smaller, taking up less space, trying not to dim your light. I am done with that. From now on, I will shine as brightly as I possibly can. If you get burned, maybe you should take a step back. Her jaw dropped, her mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. We're your family, Alara, my mother said, her voice cracking as she switched to the familiar tactic of tears and guilt. You were supposed to share this with us. We were supposed to celebrate together. Families are supposed to share everything. Share? I asked, my laugh sharp and bitter. Let's be honest, Mom. Your definition of sharing is that what's mine is ours and what's Chloe's is hers. Do you honestly think that if I had told you about the money, your reaction would have been to celebrate for me? Or would it have immediately become, great, now we can pay off the mortgage? Or, fantastic, Chloe can start her own skincare line? Or, wonderful, now we don't have to worry about retirement? Their guilty, stunned silence was all the answer I needed. It hung in the air between us, more damning than any confession. Let me make this perfectly clear, I said, my voice dropping, no longer angry, just filled with an unshakable finality. My life, my career, and yes, my money, are no longer a communal resource for this family. They are mine. Our relationship, from this day forward, is going to change. There will be no more secret checks. No more funding vanity projects. No more setting my dreams aside to fund your whims. I took out my keys and walked toward my apartment door. Where do you think you're going? My father demanded, his voice a mix of anger and disbelief. I'm going inside my apartment, I said without looking back. I have some important emails to answer. It turns out, when you have a $5 million research grant to manage, a lot of important people want to talk to you. You can't just walk away from us, my mother cried out, her voice desperate. We're your parents. We need to talk about this. We need a plan. I stopped at my door, turning to look at them one last time, a trio frozen in their own self-inflicted disaster. No, Mom. I have a plan. You are no longer part of it. You had your chance to have a front-row seat to my life. You chose to go to a different party. I hope the tea was worth it. As I stepped inside my apartment and shut the door, I could hear their raised voices arguing on the street. For the first time, their chaos was not my problem. As I locked the bolt, I didn't feel victorious, not yet. I felt the sharp, clean pain of a necessary amputation. The phantom limb of their approval ached, but I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would learn to live without it. The morning after the confrontation, I woke up to a profound and unfamiliar silence. It wasn't the silence of loneliness. It was the silence of peace. My apartment felt bigger, calmer. My phone, which I had finally put on Do Not Disturb, was a dark, quiet rectangle on my nightstand instead of a beacon of other people's demands. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was truly in my own space. Instead of feeling obligated to respond to the barrage of texts, I made 2 phone calls that were purely for me. The first was to a high-end real estate agent whose name I'd gotten from a university colleague. Hi, I said, my voice clear and steady. My name is Dr. Alara Vance. I'm looking to purchase a penthouse apartment, something with a large outdoor terrace, preferably near the University Observatory District. My budget is quite flexible. The agent's professional demeanor immediately shifted to one of keen interest. It was a small thing, but it was a taste of a new reality where my name and my resources commanded respect, not dismissal. The second call was to Dr. Finch. "Alara," he said, his voice warm over the line. "I saw the paper, a well-deserved tribute, though I imagine it might have caused some turbulence." "You could say that, Doctor," I replied, a small smile playing on my lips. "But I'm ready for the next chapter. I'm ready to get to work. When can we discuss the logistics of setting up my lab?" That week was a whirlwind of purposeful activity that left no room for family drama. I met with savvy financial advisors who spoke to me about long-term investments and philanthropic trusts, not about bailing out a sibling. I consulted with lawyers who drafted documents to protect my intellectual property. I sat in boardrooms with university deans who saw me not as a child, but as a valuable asset and a future leader in my field. Every interaction was a reinforcement of my new reality. I held firm on my boundary of silence with my family. I sent them a single, concise group email. "Dear Father, Mother, and Chloe, as I mentioned, I need space. My life is undergoing a significant transition, and my focus must be on my work. I will not be answering calls or texts at this time. When I am ready, I will be in touch to discuss what a future relationship might look like. Until then, I expect you to respect my request for privacy. Sincerely, Dr. Lara Vance." Using my full professional title was a deliberate choice. It was a declaration that the Alara they knew, the compliant daughter, the background supporter, was no longer the person they were dealing with. The initial fallout on their end came to me in fragmented pieces. My Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, called under the guise of congratulating me. After 5 minutes of praise, she got to the real point. "Your mother is a wreck, Alara. She says you won't speak to her, and poor Chloe, that tea company dropped her. They said her brand was no longer aligned with their values of family and authenticity." Can you imagine? I could, actually. I listened politely and then ended the call, refusing to be drawn into the role of therapist or fixer. Later, I saw a post from one of Chloe's social media frenemies. It was a screenshot of an article about my award, with the caption, "Sue happy for some people's success." A good reminder that real influence comes from brains, not just brunch pics. 2 women in STEM, know your worth. The passive aggression was thick, but the message was clear. The social ecosystem that Chloe had so carefully curated was turning on her. I found a new apartment within 2 weeks. It was a stunning space on the top floor of a modern building, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. More importantly, it had a sprawling terrace, perfect for my telescope. The first night I spent there, I didn't even unpack. I just stood on that terrace, the cool night air on my skin, and looked up. The city lights created a haze that obscured many of the stars, but I knew they were there. For years, I had felt small and insignificant. I had accepted a compressed version of myself to make others feel comfortable. But standing there, feeling the vastness of the sky above and the solid foundation of my own making beneath me, I felt an expansion within myself. I was no longer a neutron star, dense and invisible. I was a supernova in the making. The life I had been living was over, but the one I was about to build was just beginning. 9 months later, the view from my terrace was the same, but the woman looking at it was entirely different. The Vance Cosmic Observation Lab was no longer a blueprint. It was a humming, vibrant reality. It was a sleek, glass-walled space in the new wing of the university's physics department, filled with the quiet intensity of brilliant minds at work. I had hired a team of 6 postdoctoral researchers and graduate students, a diverse group of young scientists from around the world, each as passionate about the cosmos as I was. Our work was already making waves, and our first collaborative paper, detailing a new method for detecting exoplanets, was about to be published in Nature. My penthouse had become a sanctuary, The walls were adorned not with family photos, but with breathtaking, high-resolution images from the Hubble telescope. The bookshelves overflowed with science, journals, and classic literature. The terrace was my private observatory. It was a home that reflected my mind and my soul, a space where I felt completely and utterly myself. My relationship with my family had been slowly and carefully reconstructed, like a delicate instrument being recalibrated. After 2 months of total silence from my end, I had agreed to meet them. It wasn't at their house or mine, but at a neutral coffee shop, a demilitarized zone for our broken family. They looked different. The entitled confidence had been stripped away, replaced by something more brittle. My father's bravado was gone, leaving behind a quiet weariness. My mother's constant, performative cheerfulness had faded, revealing the anxious lines around her eyes. And Chloe looked her age for the first time. The curated perfection of her online persona had vanished. She was working part-time at a retail store and taking a community college course in graphic design. "We're sorry, Alara," my father began, the word sounding rusty and unused. "We were wrong about everything. We were blind." My mother nodded, twisting a napkin in her hands. "We took you for granted. We got so caught up in Chloe's world. The sparkle, the immediate validation. We didn't see you. We didn't see the years of hard work, the incredible mind you have. And I am so deeply, profoundly sorry for that." Chloe remained silent, staring into her now cold latte. I listened. I let the silence sit after they spoke. I didn't rush to absolve them. "Thank you for saying that," I said finally. "I needed to hear it. But you have to understand that an apology doesn't erase years of being made to feel invisible. Trust has been broken, and it can't be rebuilt overnight." "What can we do to fix it?" my mother pleaded, her voice cracking. "Nothing can fix it instantly," I said. "But we can begin to build something new. A different kind of relationship. One based on mutual respect. That means when I talk about my work, you ask questions and you actually listen. It means you celebrate my achievements for what they are, not for what they can provide you. And for Chloe," I said, turning to my sister for the first time, "it means you have to find your own measure of success, one that has nothing to do with me." Chloe finally looked up, and for the first time, I didn't see jealousy or resentment in her eyes. I saw a flicker of raw, painful vulnerability. "I don't know how," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You were always good at things that mattered. I was only ever good at being liked. And now, people don't even like me that much." The admission was so honest, it disarmed me. "Then start there," I said, my voice softer than I intended. "Find something you genuinely enjoy. Not for how it will look online, but because it interests you. Not for the likes, but for the learning. And if you need to talk about it, really talk. Without an agenda. My phone will be on." It was the beginning of a fragile truce. In the months that followed, they tried. My father started reading science articles online and would send them to me, asking thoughtful, if sometimes clumsy, questions. My mother, in a gesture that spoke volumes, took down a large, glamorous photo of Chloe from the living room and replaced it with the framed newspaper article about my award. Chloe sent me a picture of a lopsided, imperfect mug she'd made in her pottery class, with the caption, "It's ugly, but it's mine." I smiled a genuine smile. It was the most impressive thing I'd ever seen her create. I invited them to an open house at my lab. As I guided them through the space, explaining our research and pointing to screens of complex data, I saw something in my father's eyes I had never seen before. Awe. Not just the pride of a father, but genuine respect for my intellect, for the world I commanded. Justice, I learned, isn't always a thunderous verdict. Sometimes It's the quiet shifting of power dynamics. Sometimes, it's seeing respect in the eyes of someone who once held only dismissal. I remained financially independent from them. When Chloe needed money to fix her car, I didn't write a check. Instead, I sat down with her and helped her create a budget so she could save for it herself. It was a new kind of support, one that fostered strength instead of dependence. I was becoming a sister, not a safety net. I also had a new family of sorts. Dr. Finch had become a true mentor and friend. We had lunch once a month, and he would share stories of his daughter, Lily, seeing in me a reflection of the scientist she might have become. He and his wife had unofficially adopted me into their lives, offering the quiet, unconditional support I had always craved. My life had become richer, fuller, populated by people who saw me and valued me for who I was. As I look back on my journey, from the crushing emptiness of that vacant front row to the vibrant, buzzing reality of my own laboratory, the most profound lesson I learned wasn't about the physics of distant galaxies. It was about the physics of self-worth. For years, I had measured my value by my family's approval, a constantly shifting and unattainable metric. I believed that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, and made myself small enough one day, they would finally see me. But that awards night taught me a fundamental cosmic truth. You can't expect people who are staring at the ground to see the stars. My value was never in their perception of me. It was in my work, in my passion, and in the quiet, stubborn resilience that kept me moving forward even when I had no cheering section. I learned that my internal validation had to be stronger than any external applause. Their betrayal, as painful as it was the catalyst that set me free. It was the gravitational collapse that precedes a supernova. It forced me to stop seeking light from others and start generating my own. Hiding my brilliance hadn't kept the peace. It had only starved me of oxygen. And it turned out, I wasn't just capable of shining. I was capable of being a Sunday. This story isn't about cutting off family. It's about redefining it on terms of mutual respect. It's about understanding that healthy relationships are built on reciprocity and genuine recognition. Sometimes, the only way to save a relationship is to be willing to walk away from it until the terms can be rewritten fairly, in the ink of honesty and respect. So I want to ask you, have you ever had to make a difficult choice to prioritize your own worth over the expectations of others? Have you ever had to step out of someone else's shadow to find your own light? Share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and I would love to read them. And if this story resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about overcoming challenges and finding your own power. Remember to share this with anyone who might need a reminder that they deserve to be seen for exactly who they are, in all their brilliance. Thank you for listening, and remember, never ever let anyone dim your light, because there is a whole universe inside of you waiting to be discovered.